Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf and to the 1st of August, Sunday, the 1st of August. And August, as you all know, is Women in Translation Month. I've been doing Women in Translation Month since I've been on BookTube, so it's 5 years. The month as a Women in Translation Month was originally created by Maitel Kaczynski. She is a blogger and she's still active on her blog, so I will leave a link to her blog down below. And there is always also Women in Translation Month is the whole month of August, but there's also always a readathon. And this time the readathon goes from Friday the 14th, Saturday the 14th to Friday the 20th of August. So it's 1 week. It's organized by a couple of people. I will leave a link to Kendra Winchester's, one of the organizers, announcement video down below. And in this video, you will find all the information for the readathon. And Kendra Winchester, of course, is, one of the founders of the Reading Women. You all know that. There are only two prompts for the readathon. The first one is read a work in translation not being a novel. And the second is read a work from a language that you haven't read before or that you haven't read within the last 5 years or something. There's also a group read. We will get to that in a minute because the group read is also on my TBR. I have 7 books here on my TBR that I want to read for Women in Translation Month, and August is always my really trying to read a lot month. I mean, even more than normal, because as you know, if you follow me, in July was my birthday. And what do I get? What do I buy? What do I wish for when it's my birthday? Books. So I got a lot of books, and I have this one rule, quote unquote rule, that I have to read more books in a month than I acquire in that month. Well, in July, that's not possible. And there's also always a lot going on. So I try to catch up in August. And what I do in August is read 30 books in 30 days. And I know August had 31 days, but that's sort of the cheat day. If I can't quite make it, I have one extra day. But it's always, I try to read 30 books in 30 days, and that levels out the 15, 17, 20 books or something that I acquired or was gifted for my birthday. Anyway. And part of the reading is hence the Women in Translation. So let's start with the first book that I already started and I talked about 2 days ago on my Friday reads, and that is The Women I Think About at Night, Traveling the Path of My Heroes by Mia Kankimaki, and translated from the Finnish by Douglas Robinson. So I won't get bonus points for this because the translator is a man. If you look at the prompts, you see that you get bonus points that if the translator is also a woman. I talked about this. Mia Kankimaki is a Finnish, or was a Finnish editor, worked in publishing. She gave up her job to write her first book about a Japanese court lady who lived 1,000 years ago. And this, her second book, is a non-fiction work, so it fits the readathon prompt number 1, not a novel. And she explores the lives of women that, for one reason or the other, she admires. She starts off with Karen Blixen, a Danish writer and who lived in Africa for a while, had a coffee plantation there that didn't go that well. But there are, I think, 10 women in total that she explores the lives and also follows their path. So in the beginning, she goes to Africa and tries to see how Karen Blixen lived. I'm reading this together with Heidi from my Reading Life. As always, you find a link to her wonderful channel down below. If you are not subscribed, you don't know what you're missing. So anyway, this is the first, my first on my TBR. Little bit of a cheat, of course, right away from the start, because I started this already. Anyway, and the second is the group read, and that is Minor Detail by Adriana Shibley. This is the Fitzgeraldo edition. There's also another edition, and the book has been translated. Elizabeth Jacquet from the Arabic. So this is translated from the Arabic by Elizabeth Jacquet. The book was first published in 2017, and this, the English edition, in 2020. And I think now I looked up everything. Anyway, so it's quite a short little book that they chose for the group read, and it is the minor detail in this book is the rape and murder of a Palestinian woman in 1949 after the Palestinian-Israeli war. And the protagonist here, many, many years later, becomes obsessed with this minor detail of this horrific war. I have never read Adania Shibli, so I'm really interested, and it is the group read, so I will certainly get to that. The next one is a buddy read again, this time with Kim from Middle of the Book March, and I will leave a link to her channel also down below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go check out her channel and subscribe. And we are reading Disoriental by Nega Javadi, translated from the French by our very own Tina Cover. Yeah, and Kim and I are probably the only two people left on the planet, the BookTube planet, who haven't read this. It was published in the English translation in 2018 and the original French in 2016. And it was a BookTube darling right when it was published, 2018, and I bought it back then. And then, you know how it goes. It just lies there, calling, please don't forget about me. So now in August, I will read this together with Kim. It's the story, Nega Javadi is an immigrant in France from Iran, and this is about a young woman, Kimia, who is also an immigrant from Iran. She fled Iran when she was 10, and now she's in her mid-20s, and she ruminates back on her life, but also on her family. There are ghosts, if I understood that correctly, so we'll see how I get along with that. You know me, and magical realism doesn't always gel, but I really, really feel bad that I haven't read this book yet, because I wanted to, and then, it just didn't happen. So I will certainly now read it together with Kim. The next is a very tiny little book from Japan. I just had to look up the translator, of course, and that is Territory of Light by Yuko Tsushima, translated from the Japanese by Geraldine Harcourt. I read, I think I told you this when I hauled the book, I read another book by the same author that I really liked, and I wanted to read more, and so I picked up this one. And it is, in the other book was also about the life of women. This original Japanese book, by the way, was published in the 1970s, so it's an older book in terms of the life that it depicts, but it tells the tale of a woman who has just been divorced, or at least separated from her partner, and I'm really curious what she does in this very short, I think it's only 100 pages or something. Yeah, just over 100 pages. But like I said, I really enjoyed my previous experience with this author, and she is one of the most well-known authors in Japan, so can't hurt, to read another one by this author, now can it? The next book is also a book that I have been meaning to read for a year, because it came out last August, and I featured it in one of my to-be-released videos back when I was still making those, and that is The Bitch by Pilar Quintana, translated from the Spanish by Lisa Dillman. Yes, I had to look that up. The original Spanish was published 2017, and this one obviously last year. Pilar Quintana is a Colombian author. And I'm also reading this for a prompt for the Reading Women Challenge 2021. One of the prompts is read a book by a South American author in translation. So hence there you go, Pilar Quintana, Colombian author. And I've never read her. The book is set in a remote village, quite desolate. And the main character is a middle-aged woman who's married to a fisherman, but they don't have any children, and she is kind of, looking for something else in her life, and she adopts a puppy, a female puppy, hence the bitch, and then plot ensues. That's all I know, but it sounded really intriguing, so I'm looking forward to this one, to read it in August. And then there are two more. And both of them, I have Sean, the book maniac, to thank. I will leave a link to his TBR, Women in Translation Month TBR video down below. And the first one is a book that he featured as a possible in that TBR video, and I thought this is something for me, and that is Marta Oriol's Learning to Talk to Plants, translated from the Catalan by Mara Fay Letham. And again, I have to look up the publication date, 2018 in Catalan and 2020 last year in the English translation. I will read this also for the second prompt of the readathon, a language that is new to you. I'm not 100% sure that I have never read a female author translated from the Catalan, but certainly not in the last 5 or 10 years. So I think that qualifies in the spirit of the prompt, as it says. I have never read this author. I have never heard of this author. So if it hadn't been for Sean featuring this book in his video, I would probably have never picked this up. The book is set in contemporary times, and we follow our main character Flora, whose longtime boyfriend had just died in a car accident just after they had lunch. And during the lunch, he told her that he's going to leave her for another woman. They had lived together for quite some time, and then it's about the withering plants, his withering plants, and how she learned to talk to plants and overcome her grief in various ways, because first of all, he died, and second of all, he was about to leave her. So this sounded really interesting, and like I said, the fact that it's from the Catalan drew me in immediately, and I like books about grief. Yeah, that's me. I'm weird. So I'm looking forward to this one. And I should stop saying that. Of course I'm looking forward to it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put it on my TBR. And the other one that I have Sean to thank is a book that he has read quite some time ago, but really, really loved. And that is from Cora Sandell, a Norwegian writer. We have a little bit of a glare here. Alberta and Jacob, translated from the Norwegian by Elizabeth Rokkan, or Rokkan, Rokkan. The original was published in 1926, so it's also an older book, and it is the first part of a trilogy featuring Alberta's life. We begin in just the start of the 20th century, and Alberta is stifled in her. It's a coming of age book, so she wants something more than she has, but she doesn't consider herself beautiful, and Jacob is her much more extroverted brother, and then plot ensues from there, and we get this like I said, coming of age story. Sean has raved about this book so many times, and I have never read this author before he mentioned her, and it sounded really interesting. And the cover, I really like the cover, but there's a but. I probably will have to read this as an ebook, try to buy it as an ebook, because I bought this online, and it's horrible. I mean, the outside looks fine, but it has this stark white cheap paper and stark black font, very small, set very small. Can you see this? And the I just don't like it. It doesn't look as white here on camera as it is in reality. It just looks like paper, a paper, an article, newspaper article that you print on a cheap printer. That's the way it looks, and that always bothers me when I don't like the way a book looks. I mean, not the outside so much, but the inside. So I absolutely want to read this in August, but it might very well be that I will buy the ebook if it's available on ebook, and then read it as ebook if I can't get over myself with the paper and the font. Anyway, so these are the 7 books that I'm planning on reading in August for Women in Translation Month. Again, I'm not doing the readathon. I'm just I follow the prompts, but I take the whole month. So not only this 1 week from the 14th through the 20th, but August for me is focusing on women in translation. Thank you very much for watching this. By the way, it was sort of a book haul disguised as a TBR because all of the books in here, except for one, I haven't hauled in previous hauls, so I all bought them new, I think, except for the Territory of Light and Disoriental, but the other 5 anyway, don't tell anybody. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Looking forward to your comments as always. Let me know whether you plan on reading any Women in Translation in August, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.